in Messilat Yesharim. We'll give a quick review of what we've done so far. Basically, where this class, Messilat Yesharim, is learning how to develop our character. There are two character traits that every Jew, every human being must have. And if you don't have these two character traits, you have not fulfilled your obligation, you have not reached your potential, and there's no excuses to not get to that. What are the two characters? Zeirut and Zrizut. Zeirut means paying attention. I'll explain it in simple words. I'm just giving a summary of what we learned so far. Basically, we see that animals have they're very on guard, they're very aware about their body safety, right? They could be sleeping, and if they feel danger, they can immediately jump, and they see any danger, they run the other way. But human beings have developed technologies that can bypass the instinct for the animal to be careful for its body. And how do we see this? In war. An animal runs right into a spear, which is completely the opposite of what an animal is. Because the animal has this instinct to run from danger, and here the animal's running right into the spear. Why? Because they had techniques to bypass that sensitivity, that awareness, that cautiousness for there's danger. They had ways through all kinds of techniques, maybe drugs, maybe who knows what, but they knew how to bypass it. We don't know today how they did it, but they had all kinds of techniques. And elephants they used to use in wars, and horses, and that's why they'd have these things on their eyes so they don't see the danger on all sides. Who knows what they did, but it worked. The first character that we must have is that we as animals have lost their cautiousness for their protection for their body. We are all created since the sin of Adam and Eve, and that the sensor that tells us to be cautious and aware of our personalities, of our soul, is not working. So if you grew up in a family where your parents did not have good communications, so you could either go on and get married and have bad communication with your wife, or you can go and learn it externally. Now you go to a therapist and they teach you. This is actually the way that you're supposed. It's hard work. It takes effort. But that's the reason why we've been brought into this world for one purpose only, is to develop our midot, our character. And if we haven't done this, we miss the whole purpose of us coming to this world. So it says, Elohim bara et Adam yashar. God created us. How do you say? With that sensitivity, with that awareness. Like I heard my son say once to someone who asked, why don't you eat not kosher? He says, well, why don't you put your finger in the socket and see how it is to, with the electricity? That's the natural state it should be. We should have such an understanding for sur mera, for staying away from negativity, things that are bad for our souls, that immediately something pops up on the phone, we should have a block so it shouldn't even pop up. But if it does, boom, we get rid of it because we know that that's fire. That's putting our hand into the socket. So Zehirut is becoming natural, the state that you're supposed to be in, where you have this sensitivity and incredible cautiousness for something is dangerous for my soul, something is bad for my personality, this is bad for me. Immediately, you, like the animal, jumps. So the whole first character is sur mera, is Zehirut. How do I become cautious and careful to be able to stay away from things that are bad for me, bad for my personality, bad for my soul? How do I reignite that, place the sensor back into my system, that I'm very sensitive to things that are negative for me? That's called Zehirut. And we said the number one enemy of Zehirut is habits. Habits is a certain mechanism we have in us where we act out of mechanical behavior without choice, without thought, without making a decision. So the first chapter, the first character of Zehirut is turning on your advantage as a human being, which is Bechira Chofshit. You have freedom of choice, which means you do nothing without making a choice. This is what I want to do. And if you don't do that, you're less than an animal, you're less than because that is what expected of you, to ignite this expectation of Zehirut, of cautiousness, of paying attention, of Chokhmah. The wisdom is you guide your life with your wisdom. You think, you plan, you make choices, you become in control of the reality, and you're not just led by your desires or your instincts or your natural instincts or whatever you've done. So that's the number one, is becoming in control, grabbing, we say in Hebrew, grabbing the bull by the horns. But that's only half of the job. If you've done that, and you're very cautious and you're careful and you're sensitive and you're on guard and you're aware, that's amazing, it's a high level. But you've only done half the job. You have to have Zerizut. Zerizut, which is the next week, we're going to start learning the next character, which is called, Zerizut is called going above nature. And that is, if you're not Zariz, we have no complaints. If you're not Zariz, you're actually connecting to the reality you're in. You're being natural, because there's gravity in the world, and gravity pulls everything down. There is a heaviness in this world. You want to sleep more. You want to go slow. You want to take it easy, and that's okay. If you do that, you're being normal. But we say, no, you need to go above nature. You need to go beyond yourself. You need to ignite the fire in you, the excitement, the passion. Where is that? Every person is made up of a candle. It says, King David says, Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. Each one of us are a candle. We have the physical part of us, which is the wax, the wick, the wax. And it's limited, and it's going down as time goes on. Our life is becoming less and less and less. I saw a shirt somebody wears where he has like 40% battery life. Like he sees himself like a battery life, and like, this is what I got left. I'm already 40%, and like that's saying that he lives to 120, but right, it's going down, and that's just the reality. It's going down. But there's a flame inside of us. There's a flame, there's a soul. That soul, if you could tap into that, you're tapping into passion, excitement, movement. It's like, you look in the Torah, the Ramchal will bring examples of Avram Avinu. He's 100 years old. We have the story of him with the guests. It's basically a day in the life of Avram Avinu. You want to see a day in the life of Avram Avinu? Avram Avinu was running to get guests, and he runs to his wife, and he runs to the El Bakar, and he's running. What is he running so much? Because that's who he was. He was tapped into his soul. And when you tap into your soul, you're tapping into fire. You're tapping into passion. You're tapping into excitement. So that was a promo for our next class. We're going to go into Zrizut. Today we're going to finish up Zehirut. Bli neder. I heard the nice thing, instead you should always say Bli neder, but if you say Eshtadel, I'll try my best, it's just as good as Bli neder. Right? So we'll try our best. I can't promise. So again, and to bring it back to what we said before, for a fish to be kosher, these two characters, what you have to have, and if you have these two characters, Zeirut and Zrizut, you are called a tzaddik. And that's a very high level, and we should all reach it. And it's how do you say, it's in our reach to become a tzaddik. After that, there's a chassid, and then beyond that, there's kadosh. We only learn up together in this class, and the rabbis have always taught the first 12 chapters that are 12 steps of how to become a tzaddik. After that, you learn with chavrutot, and you keep going, but we always learn the 12 chapters. We're in chapter 5. So we said, a fish to be kosher needs two, analogy for what we're talking about, these two character traits, Zeirut and Zrizut. One is a fish has to have scales and fins. Scales is armor, protection. They used to go to war, they used to wear things, scales. Be careful, be aware, be on guard, guard yourself. Like take how do you say, prevention, preventative. That's the armor. But if you don't have the fins, if you're not out there moving, making things happen, conquering the world, you are not kosher. It's not enough to just lock the door, be in your room. I won't bother anybody. I won't make any mistakes. I won't see any things I don't want to see. No, go out there, conquer the world. At the end of the day, do your cheshbon nefesh and say, what did I do good? How can I make it better? What did I do bad? How can I make it not happen again? And keep going out there, because God wants you not to just, it's two parts of one coin. If you don't have the zeirut and the zrizut, you are not a complete person. You're not fulfilling your potential. So go out there and fulfill the potential, and don't be worried about making mistakes and doing things wrong. We're not, Rav Kook said, we are not created in the way where we will not make mistakes. We're created in the way where we have to do tshuva after we make mistakes and learn from our mistakes and try to fix. That's just the reality. We're going to make mistakes. It's the way we're built. But we have to be careful, and we have to learn from our mistakes. Okay? So it's human to make mistakes. It's not human to not learn from your mistakes. So we said the Ramchal's great genius of being systematic and very organized in his program on how to reach each character. And this is the number one, the second most, sold book in the Jewish library, is the second bestseller in the Jewish library, is this book we're learning, Messilat Yesharim. So obviously it's a very, very important book. The Ramchal breaks down each character, and this is the layout for the whole book. Each character has to have 4 parts. First part is overview, and this is a rule for all of Torah learning. When you learn Torah, understand the overview. Any concept, first understand the overview, the big picture. That's called klal. Once you understand the big picture, you need the details. This morning I was learning a class with my rabbi, Rav Shlomo Aviner, and he was talking all about the dangers that come from people that only learn the big picture, and they don't learn the details. Like the Christianity. Exactly. Love your neighbor as yourself. They don't know that the next part of that story, when Hillel met that man and he said, tell me the whole Torah in 1 foot, he said, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, you don't, right? What you don't want done unto you, do it to the others. And what did he say? 3 words in Aramaic. Ve'idach zil gmor. Now go and learn how applying that. So it's not enough to have just, a lot of people learn the big picture and the overview, but you need to learn how does it apply in life. So then you have the prat, the details of how do I apply this, the big picture. This is the way the Ramchal teaches each chapter. Klal, overview. Prat, the details on how to apply it in your day-to-day life. Part 3, motivation. You could know exactly the big picture. You can know exactly what to do. You could know exactly what to do. You can even say it by heart. I need to be doing da 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 da. So why are you not doing it? I don't know. Let me tell you why you're not doing it. There's so many things in our life we know and we can say it, but we're not applying it. Why? Because we don't have motivation. And then the Ramchal gives us the third part of, and this is the layout for every character. Motivation, and the Ramchal has 3 different systems based on 3 different personality types. That there's 3 different motivation ways to motivate. And then the last thing is where we are today, is maintenance and upkeep. If you, everything in life, whether it's your marriage, your money, your character, anything that you have, you can work so hard to get it. You can understand it in general and the details, and you can motivate yourself, and you can actually be doing it. Wow. Now, if you don't do upkeep and maintenance, you will lose that character. You will lose that gift. It's not enough to just buy it, right? Kniyah. It's now you have to always be on hefsedim, on the things that make you lose it. For example, you have a car. If you don't do the manual of changing the brakes and the oil and the upkeep, right, and doing the maintenance, the car will break. everything in life. And we see with Adam and Chava, they were in the Garden of Eden. There's a story once of the Chafetz Chaim. He was he came to give a talk somewhere, and they brought this young girl, 20-year-old girl, and they said, here, you're going to sit here. Here's the room of the rabbi in the hotel room. Your job is to sit here, and anything the rabbi needs, you will get him. The rabbi puts his hands on his head and says, please do not give me this test. Do not leave me alone with this young girl. Are you crazy? So someone asked him, but Rabbi, you're the Chafetz Chaim, you're the holiest of the holies. He says, even Adam and Eve had everything and they lost it. Wow. No matter how holy you are, how great you are. Yeah, I'm not saying it that I'm gonna, do something wrong, but I don't want to get there. I don't want to don't test me, don't give me this challenge. So a person has to know Zeirut is cautiousness, being careful to take control. So now we're in Hefsedim. Now, to me, this layout is so comforting because we're in a generation where there's 50 to 80% divorce in the world, and 80% of the married couples are emotionally divorced. In other words, they just live under the same roof, but they really don't like each other. And most people would come to the conclusion that why should I even get married? Because if the chances are 50 to 80% divorce and 80% to be miserable, like single guy says to me, look, I could either get married and be super happy or be miserable. I'll just stay single, right? I said, that's a good idea besides that God said get married, right? Maybe it would be a good idea, maybe. But on the other hand, why not believe that when you understand that there's a system, that there's a program? Like the Ramchal said, the Yetzer Hara is like an old king. He's been around a long time, and we know all of his techniques. We know all of his strategies, and we have the antidote. We have the solution to the problem, the Torah, and we'll talk about that. But to me, this is super comforting, knowing not only can you get married, but if you do the upkeep and maintenance, you could be happily married. People just think that you get married and then it must become bad, right? Why is it? Because that's what I tell people at the wedding. They're standing there on the chuppah, and I say, right? You feel like you just won the lottery, or you just won you just found like the treasure, right? You feel that way. It's like we love each other. We're so beautiful. It's like the peak. Can't get better. So I want you to know, you did not find the treasure. You found the map to the treasure. Now you have to get up in the morning, put your gear on, and you're going on that adventure, on that journey. And that you haven't begun even to find the fortune, but you have the map. You're going to go and you're going to find these treasures of children. You're going to find treasures of learning how to communicate and learning to grow. And it's a wonderful journey. And it doesn't have to be the way the secular Western world has this concept of you fall in love, right? Just happen. And happiness is like something just happened to me. You actually have control. And you can make it be wonderful. And it's not just a lost cause. And if you take this same model, and the first model we're talking about is between you, yourself, and God. It's about you being cautious and careful and aware. It's without another person. But then you apply it to another person, to the circles around you and your wife, your children, your surroundings, and you can grow in it. So now, we said we learn a lot from the Ramchal, not just from the actual text, but from the headlines that the Rav Kook, that the Ramchal wrote, what did he call his chapters? So this chapter is called Bi'ur Mafsidei HaZeirut Ve'Archaka Mihem. We're going to learn what are the things that make you lose this cautiousness, this paying attention. And this is once you have it. And if you don't have it, Ve'Archaka, what makes it further away from you? If you want to get it, these things will bring it closer. So even if you're starting now, this is your first class in Messilat Yesharim, you're going to get something out of it, because even if you're not there, how will you get there? This is the things that will bring you close. So the Ramchal says, Hine mafsidei amidah azot, you worked so hard to get it, become a person that thinks before you do, that the chachma is what guides your life, is your wisdom. There are three things that will make you lose it. One, hu atipul v'atirda ha'olami. One is, tipul means that you have to attend. Tirda, the annoying things, olami, we call work. You have work, you have your body, you have needs, you have so many bodily needs and physical needs, and that's called work. Two, haschok ve'alatzon, which is making everything into a joke and laughter. We'll explain each one. And shlishi achevra. And three is the society, the community that you associate yourself with, your surroundings of your social surroundings. And these three things have a very strong effect on you, and we'll explain it. And it goes from the easy to the hard. Okay? Hine atipul v'atirda kvar dibarnu. We spoke about that in the chapter before. Moshe Rabbeinu comes to the Jewish people in the desert, in Egypt, when they're suffering from 200 years of slavery, and he says to them, your God sent me, the God of Abraham, Yitzchak, Pakad Elohim etchem, your God sent me, I'm taking you out of Egypt. What does it say? Vayamenam, they believed. Suddenly they were ignited with an excitement, with a belief. We're getting out of here. We've been 210 years slaves, and that's it. Now we're going to become free. They had this new spirit came into them of excitement and belief. What does Paro say? Tichbad ha'avodah. They're not working hard enough. Pump up the work volume. Yesterday they had to bring one thing of one block of hay or whatever, one block for building, and we gave them the materials. Now they have to bring two without any materials. Good luck. And then, did it work, Paro's thing? The Jewish people are coming to Israel. The redemption is coming. It's 1948, the Jewish people are coming home. There's this excitement. The Yitzhar says, pump up the work volume. WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Netflix, series. What else is there? TikTok. Faster, pump up, more intense, more lights, more action, more provocative. Quick, they're starting to think. What does it say? Did it work? Paro's technique. Moshe Rabbeinu comes back. Velo shamu el Moshe mikotze ruach ume'avodah kasha. Now they can't hear him. Paro's technique works. All you got to do is pump up the work effort. Pump up the people have to be busy, and they're gone. They're gone. They can't hear Moshe Rabbeinu. V'lo shamu el Moshe. I can't hear it. Why? Kotze ruach avodah kasha. I can't breathe. I can't breathe, and I can't, and I'm just overworked. So we said that's why the first thing we explained is we explained the importance of, we explained what is the Yetzer Hara, right? The Yetzer Hara is like this person. No. Yetzer Hara is not a person. Yetzer Hara is the desire for self-preservation, which means I need to eat. I need to survive. What does that mean? And it's an emergency. There's a limited amount of resources, and that means that everybody's fighting over the same pie. It's an emergency. It's a crisis. If you look in the story of Avram and Lot, it's incredible. What is the word that Avram and Sodom? Avram goes to rescue his brother-in-law, right? It was his nephew. His nephew Lot goes to rescue him, and the king. And if you read the psukim there, over and over, the king of Sodom keeps saying one word: "Ten li kach, ani kach, take." The culture of Sodom was take. You have to take. Why? Because there's only a limited amount, so you have to take. They call it the law of the jungle, right? There's a limit. There's the fittest. The law of the fittest. There's only one flaw in that philosophy. Whose philosophy is that? The rule of the fittest?
The animal world.
Right, but there's a lot. It's called it has a name.
Survival myth.
Yeah, there's a philosopher.
Natural selection.
So there's like a philosophy about the rule of the fittest. It's called.
Only the strong survive.
Only the strongest survives. There's only one mistake in that philosophy. Why are the dinosaurs not here? And a little bird chirping is still on the trees, chirping away. So if that's true, then why is it that the dinosaurs are not here, the fittest are not here, and the birds are, small birds? Obviously, it's not correct. But Avram Avinu comes from a whole new world of understanding. And that's what we're learning here, the school of Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu says to you, it says anybody who came in, he would feed them. And when they came to pay for it, he would say, no, just thank God. What do you mean thank God? You gave it to me. I gave it to you, so pay me. Thank you, God. Wonderful. You're great food. They thought he was crazy. But Avram Avinu is teaching the world that when you're connected to God, the source of all sources, Baruch Ata Hashem, Baruch is like a brecha. There's a huge pool. There's no lack of resources. But when you tap into that place, I don't need to be in this struggle, in this fight over there's a little limited amount of resources of survival, and we have to fight over it. No, I can believe in God. So we said the first most important thing to combat the number one, the first challenge is your thoughts are in prison. In order to have zehirut, you have to be able to be a free thinker. If your thoughts are always wrapped up into one thing, how am I going to make more money? How am I going to survive more? And we said, you have to quiet those war bells. There's these war bells. The Yetzer Hara, we said, is not a person. It's that desire for self-preservation. And you have to quiet those war bells, and you have to say to yourself, it's not an emergency. It's not a crisis. I have time to give to my soul. I have time to think. I can clear my space. I can be a balanced person, give to my body. I can give to my soul. I can give to my work. It's okay. And you have to quiet down that, because we have this crisis. We're always in this state of crisis, and it's emergency, and it's a matter of life and death, because if I don't eat, I'm going to die. And this takes over, and there's no room for anything else. So the first thing you have to be, and this is the easiest one to combat. How do you combat it? Two ways. This is the easy. We're going to the next ones that are way harder. But the first one is easy. How do you combat it? And we said, Barati Yetzara, Barati Torah Tavlin. You have food that is tasteless. You don't enjoy it. All you do is put a little bit of salt, a little bit of how do you say tavlinim, of spices. Suddenly the food comes to life. Suddenly everything has taste and meaning and purpose. All you need to do is that we said two things to combat this number one thing that will make you lose that. You're in yeshiva, so of course you're learning all day and you have time, you're giving to your soul, and it's wonderful. But what happens when you go out into the field? You go out into the world, the workforce, and you have bosses that are pressuring you, and you have a wife, and you have children, you have pressures, and you need a house, you need a car, you need all these things. What happens then? Torah Tavlin. Two ways to combat it. The simplest way is Kavata itim la Torah. Just put it into your calendar. Like the famous Chinese saying. Anyone knows the famous Chinese story? That if you have big rocks, small rocks, and smaller rocks, and sand. If you put the sand into a jar, that's it. You can't put any rocks in. But if you first put the big rocks, then the smaller rocks, then the smaller, then the sand, everything fits in. The Kvoitim Torah means you schedule in your calendar time to learn Torah. First thing in the morning, right? So the important things are dealt with. Now we can do everything else. So one way to combat it is, and it says one of the first questions they ask you when you come to Shemayim, Kavate Tim La Torah. Did you schedule time in for your soul, for your time to think, time to, again, Cheshbon Nefesh is not just learning, it's also just thinking. Where am I at? How am I acting in the world? Where do I want to be? You need to give time for these thoughts, not thinking about anything but where am I at? Where's my personality at? Where do I want to be? Am I in the right direction? Am I happy with my life? Am I going in the right direction? Am I honest to myself? Am I being true to myself? So that is the easiest one to combat, because all you got to do is make a decision. We said one, make a set time in your calendar for learning Torah. That small amount of time, let's say half an hour in the morning, half an hour at night, is like putting meaning and purpose and spices on your whole life. Everything you're going to do from that after that will be infused, it will be connected to that spiritual, to that holy, to that remembering the goal and the purpose and the mission. And when you're in that state, everything will be wonderful. So that's one way to combat it. Combat two, you don't set a set time. You just, every free moment you have, you learn Torah. You're taking a jog, you put on the Torah class. You're on a bus, you're waiting at a thing, you learn something. So that way, you don't have to set a time. Just whenever you have free time, that's what you do. You know, free time, I learn. And today with the technology, if you already have it, or even a book, you don't even need a technology. Just always have a book with you. And whenever you're so much, there was a story, I forgot who it was, Rav Kanievsky. He did a siyum on the whole Shas. From every time he had a few minutes that he was waiting in line or something, that's when he was learning. He had a seder for when he was had free like just time that was not scheduled into his learning. He's waiting in line. He's in a car. He's this. He's that. And he did a whole siyum. It took many years, but he did the whole siyum on the whole shas just on those free times. So we said one way is just set a time. Second way is just every spare moment learn Torah, because the Torah is the only solution. That's what he says. Barati Yetzara, Barati Tavlin, and this is God did not create lo bara lemakazo elofazo. This is the only cure. People are looking for cures to run to halfway around the world, to try this, to try that, meditations, this, all kinds of a million different new things every other day. There's new ways to try to heal this pain. Like we said, the soul is crying. When the soul cries, you're not happy. That's why there's so much depression, and there's so much. The largest growing disease in North America is depression, because people don't have that feeling of purpose, of they're not giving their soul the food it needs, mission, connection to God. You need that, and that's what the Torah gives, and there's no other cure to this pain. So that's it. We said number one is this, and again, the Rav Kook adds here that the Ramchal says you should try to just limit the work to a very limited amount. The Rav Kook says, listen, I have no problem. You could even do more than you need. You want to work for your excess in life, go ahead. But it's not B'tul Torah as long as you do not neglect what we call tikkun hanefesh, working on your character, working on your personality, becoming a better person, growing. As long as you're doing that, fine, you can go overboard, but not at the expense. And this is what's called, in Hebrew, it's called Torah HaMash'abim HaMugbalim. There's the Torah of the limited resources, which means you have a certain amount of time. If you go overboard on one aspect of your life, it comes at the expense of another thing. If you overdo it at work on a regular basis, it's coming at the expense of your body, of your soul, right? It's not that you could just say, I'll go overboard. Always know that it's coming at the expense of something. Be aware of that. So this is the easiest one to combat. It's just a decision. You just put it into your calendar. I have a chavruta these days, that days. I have a learning. This is it. It's very simple. Every day I learn. That's the easy one. Number two is already much more difficult. Number two is we called Aschok Hasheni Ukashe Me'od. If the first one we said was hard, the second one is Kashe Me'od, is a very hard challenge. And that is laughter and jokes. A person who isn't learning Torah, his mind is not free to think, we said, thoughts of spirituality, of godliness, of personal growth. His thoughts are, how do you say, trapped. When you learn Torah, now you're thinking thoughts that release you, that you're thinking now, not just about your own little what am I going to eat for lunch, but something bigger, idealism, right? Thinking about like the big picture. Haschok v'alatzon, somebody who gets sucked into making everything into a joke. Everything is laughter. It's a philosophy that, it's like you have Torah and then you have a contradiction to the Torah, which is a philosophy that everything is a joke. Nothing has meaning. Nothing has purpose. Everything is meaningless. It's a philosophy. So it's a philosophy instead of a philosophy. That's a competition already with the Torah. If you're just your thoughts are just trapped with thinking about how I'm going to make money, that's bad. But all you have to do is make time. But here, it's an outlook of life that there is no meaning or purpose. There's nothing with God's will. Like in Hebrew, we say retzini, someone who's serious. Is someone who lirot ratzon Hashem bechol davar. You see that there is a will of God in everything. You have to understand everything has the will of, we know in every aspect of our life there's a mitzvah, there's a halacha, because everything has their will of God. And unfortunately, when it comes to laughter and making jokes, the Ramchal says, Ki mi shetovea bam hu kebi shetovea bayam hagadol. A person that falls into this trap of making everything into a joke, of making everything into meaningless, everything is meaningless. There's no depth. There's no meaning to anything in life. That person is like a person drowning in the ocean. If, like we said, the Torah being water, so this person is drowning in a different philosophy of life. Cynicism. Everything's a joke. Everything's meaningless. Everything's purposeless. It's a very dangerous trap that I think in my life many times I fell into this. Wanting to fit in, wanting to be seen. You start making jokes and you get sucked into it. It's a very, very dangerous challenge. The laughter, making jokes of everything, loses your heart. Your heart is your ability to take to heart, to let something penetrate and to take it in. Wow, that is deep. That's interesting. That is something that I have to think about. It says in the Gemara, Yafa makat mardut belibo shel adam mi-elef malkuyot. By you letting something into your heart is greater than 400 lashes. I'm giving a person lashes. Understand what I'm telling you. Understand, and it's not going in. 400 lashes. And then the person goes, now I get it. That's worth more than 400 lashes. By the way, it's a very important understanding, especially someone who's in therapy for many years. Just the thought of, a lot of times we want someone to understand something, and we're screaming at them, and we're yelling at them, they understand it. They don't understand. If you change your strategy and you do it that they can understand it in the way that they hear it, and they let it in, when a person lets that into their heart, become vulnerable, becomes like, let it in, that's worth 400 lashes. But you can't talk to this person. A person who makes a joke of everything, and tam v'de'am moshe, you can't talk like things that are you can't talk sense, right? You're trying to talk sense, and the person's like, I don't know what you're talking about, because there's nobody home, right? There's nobody home. There's nothing you could say, and obviously, and this laughter and joking leads to very, very negative things. That's what the Gemara says. It says in Kohelet, it's Pirkei Avot. It says, "Schok v'kalut rosh movilim et ha'adam le'erva, margilim et ha'adam le'erva." A person who's there's a natural boundary between men and women. There's a natural boundary. A married woman and a guy, right? You ask a guy, would you go sleep with a married woman? No way. It's a sin of one of the worst 3 sins that you're supposed to, like, the person. But if people at work start to laugh, a married woman laughing with a guy, laughing, 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 the walls, the natural boundaries of distance are broken down. And then a person, without even being aware of it, could come, that's what he says, I would never do that. A person, and it happens unfortunately many, many, many times. I think they say today 80% of men cheat on their wife, 40% of women cheat on their husbands. I don't know if these are in which communities, but it's not good in all communities. And how does that happen? Very simple. Tzchok vekalut rosh. That's all it takes. Laughing, joking around, flirting, and slowly, slowly, the natural boundaries break down. And zeirut, we said, there's nothing worse for your soul than to go to that. We're taking it to the extreme. But the laughter and the joke and nothing has meaning and purpose reaches to a place. Slowly, slowly, a person gets there, and he doesn't know, how did I get here? The answer is, you made a joke of everything. And he says, this is really hard. And it's like we said, this is what he says, it's like a magen amashuach b'shemen. It's like in battle, they used to take these shields, and they used to tie them with this type of skin, and they'd rub oil on it, and then the spear would basically like slide off. So a person who makes a joke of everything is basically like a person that puts on the shield. It's a certain armor to protect yourself, because a person doesn't want to be vulnerable, doesn't want to let things in, and slowly, slowly, nothing gets in, and there's nobody to talk to. The only thing that a person can do, the only way to get through to a person like this, there's only one way. Unfortunately, the one way is suffering. Suffering is the only thing that wakes this person up. Everything's a joke, but when he's suffering, suddenly he starts to see things seriously. Like they say, there's no atheist in a foxhole. When a person suddenly is suffering, suddenly he's taking things seriously. It's not a joke anymore. Unfortunately, it should never happen. We should all, right? And therefore, this is a very hard one. And it's something we have to be aware of, especially nowadays where there's all these movies and jokes and like, I mean, people show me like these movies, you see people being hurt. You see all these like laughing at people, just for laughs they call it. Just making fun of people. And people watch this. And this is considered entertainment. And there's all kinds of things, and all these movies of comedies and all these things, and it's easy to get sucked into it. This is more dangerous than overworking.
Stand-up comedy has become
stand-up comedy.
Just
it's
that.
one thing. It's one thing. Like it says that Rava would always start his class with a joke. It's one thing. My rabbi always, like, you wake people up. You give a little joke. It's a difference. Or you watch a few minutes of a comedy that's with content, and you talk about it, and then you have a discussion. But like the idea is to be serious, to see the will of God of everything, to be happiness. Again, the Rambam talks about it. There's something called leitzanut, and then there's atzvut, right? Like there's leitzanut on one side, which is like we're talking about now, and then the other side you have atzvut, like sadness, and the middle path is simcha. So simcha is yes, there is a place for leitzanut. The Torah talks about you're allowed to make jokes about idols, about idol worshiping, right? You're allowed to make jokes because it shows it's worthless, it's meaningless, it's nothing, and you're right. So you don't take it seriously. So there's a place for joking about idol worshiping. There's a place for joking, for being happy. For happiness is an outcome of a process of effort, and then now you feel happiness. I thought of something and I made it come into reality. That brings me happiness. But leitzanut is a very dangerous enemy, where it's a philosophy, there's no meaning, there's no purpose. It's the opposite of chachma leading your life. It's the opposite of wisdom, of godliness, and we have to be on guard, and we have to take it to heart. Okay? Adkan. Now we have the third one. Last few minutes, 10 minutes to learn about the third, how do you say, the third factor of how not to lose zehirut is המפסיד השלישי הוא חברה, דהיינו חברת הטיפשים והחוטאים. So the third one is the surroundings, the community you're part of. This is very, very important. Who are your friends? Who are the people you associate with? A person naturally feels a very difficult ability to feel, how do you say, stable in life. Am I doing the right thing? And when he feels that he's approved by the people around him, it makes him feel secure. I fit in. A person, that's what the Rambam says, derech shel adam liot nimshach achar chaverav re'av. A person wants to be fitting in, and a person doesn't want to be laughed at and wants to be right. You want to be fit in. That's okay, as long as you're in the right community. That's one of the reasons for wearing a kippah, for example. When you wear a kippah, you are saying, I am part of this community. This is my association. Now, again, that is a statement. This is my social circles that I'm with. I identify with that. You put on a kippah, people expect of you, like, what, you shouldn't, you're wearing a kippah, how could you speak that way? Or how could you be doing this thing? My rabbi said, they asked my rabbi many times, if I'm going to do negative things, should I take off my kippah? I'm going to a bar, I'm going to a not modest movie, should I take off my kippah? No, leave on your kippah. Because when you leave on the kippah, you're saying, I believe in God, I'm part of this community. Yeah, I'm doing this thing that I shouldn't be doing, but I still believe in God. You take it off, you're saying, that's it, I'm not part of this. That's why it's a very big thing. Kippah is not just even though it's a minhag, it's not a halacha, even though it became accepted. But the idea is that I belong to this society. And we said, and this is the society you're part of is very important. And the Rav Kook says that the society affects not only your actions, it affects your character, it affects your thoughts. You don't even realize. I remember when I used to work, I went on shlichut to Montreal. And I was in these, I used to go to the university campuses to work. And I would come home and my thoughts were, all I heard was swear words. All the kids would be talking, like cursing. Every word is the F word, and the right, and it becomes like part of your thinking and your thoughts. Like it's just natural that you'll speak that way. If that's what you hear, and those are the surroundings. So therefore, Rav Kook says that that's just the way it is. That the effect of society is not right. It's not only from wanting to fit in, but it's the closeness. And he says, Rav Kook says, even animals will have an effect on you. If you have a bad dog, for example, it will affect you to not care for the needs of other people. To be like you. There's a joke my rabbi says. The rabbi asked him, does your dog affect you at all? Not at all. He says, well, what's your name? Ruffy. But he says, actually, even the animal, if you have a cruel dog and a mean dog, that will affect the person's personality. And I just want to put a side note that's very important to know. Because you may hear this and say, whoa, okay. I have family that are not so great. Not such a great effect on me. They don't keep mitzvahs. They don't keep Torah. So maybe I'll stay away from them. Maybe I'll stay away from my, where I grew up, my friends. They're negative. The answer is, God connected you to certain souls. And if you are connected to these souls, your family are your souls, then you have an ability to have a positive effect on them, whether you know it or not. And your job is not to say, I want nothing to do with them. Go there and actually bring something to the table. Actually uplift, bring words because those are the souls that you're connected to. And therefore, do not detach yourself from your close relatives and family and friends. Because if you have a real deep soul connection, then you have the ability to just take the relationship to the next level. Like King David said, Adabra Edabra edotecha neged melachim. King David would be sitting at a table with all these kings, and all they'd be talking about is women and money and money and power. And King David, Edabra edotecha neged melachim. David Melech would be talking Dvar Torah, sitting with kings. He's totally not in the world that they're in. Come on, what are you talking about? You're like us. You're a king. Let's talk power. Let's talk money. Let's talk women. Let's talk, desires. No. So that's what we said. The chevrat tipshim. If a person hangs out with a society of idiots, then it will affect him, right? And the Rav Kook mentions here the whole effect of us being for thousands of generations surrounded by Christianity. It had an effect on us. We've been hurt by the negative thoughts, and these were our surroundings. We couldn't get away from it, and we were hit by it. But right, and that's what he says. A person that goes to become in charge of idiots becomes an idiot. That's just the way it works. Obviously, you have to be on guard. You have to be you have to do things. You have to like my rabbi told me once. This girl came to get his advice. She was a Mossad agent, and she said, "I lie all day long. My job is lying. I have to act like somebody else, and everything I do is a lie. And I can't learn Torah, so what do I do? Buy books in the language of this country you're in, books on personal development, personal growth, about being honest, and just learn those books all the time, because even though you're lying all the time, you don't want that to become who you are. You don't want that. There's a difference between someone who lies and a liar. My rabbi always says, don't never tell your children you're a liar. You could say you're lying, but a liar is who a person is. And that, as long as you are learning about it and realizing this is not right, this is not what I should be doing, you won't fall into that trap. Okay? Therefore he says, and then the Ramchal goes into the idea, he says, Pamim Rabba, we see many times, even a person becomes clear, and what he has to do it, but he won't do it. Why? I don't want them to laugh at me. I don't want people to laugh at me. So then he says, but wait, what about what it says? It says in the Gemara, a person should be socially healthy person who knows how to how to mingle with people. What should you answer that person? That's what people were acting like people. People that are acting like animals, stay away. Right? And that's very important. So like we said, and a lot of times people will give up on a lot of their values because of they want people to like them. They want people to limtzochen, that I'm a good person. They want to fit in, and that's a very big challenge. And therefore, and like we see today, it's becoming socially accepted, a man to marry a man. That's becoming the mainstream. A man should marry a man, right? This is the society. The people that are in that society, and the numbers of people becoming transgender and homosexual are growing by thousands of percents, because it's becoming that not only is it becoming accepted, but it's becoming how do you say?
Trendy, cool.
It's becoming cool, trendy. It's becoming. I remember when I was a kid, someone said to me, "Do you ever try kissing a man? It's really important. You have to try it. Just come on. How close-minded are you?" I grew up with a lot of crazy things around, but basically, so therefore, a person has to. So we said the importance of surrounding yourself with the right community, the right society. Wearing a kippah, we said. It's a distinction. It's a decision of I am part of this community, because these are my surroundings. I may be in other places, I might be in a different surroundings, but I still identify this is my community. I am a person that believes in God and in the will of and I want to do what's right. I want to do it according to what God says is right, and therefore, and I just want to end with one last thing. My rabbi said people have a very difficulty understanding this. There's two types of people in the world. They say, I love the Chilonim, and therefore I love the Chilonut. I love the secular people, so I love the secular life. Other people say, I hate the secular life, the Chilonut, and I hate the Chilonim, because they represent that. And actually, we need to learn to do a very complex fusion of I love the Chilonim, and I hate the Chilonut. I disagree with these negative way of life, these negative behaviors, but I love you as a person. I care about you. I like my rabbi once, he started an association to help people with how do you say in Hebrew, netiyot hafuchot? How do you say? Yeah, netiyot hafuchot. It's like people are homosexual. He started a center to help people to get out of that situation. So he was interviewed on the radio, and they said, "Why you're such a homophobic and you hate the gay people?" And he says, "No, I don't." Now. He said, "I love them, and the reason why I opened up the center was in order to help these people have the most wonderful things in life, which is a wife and children. It doesn't come from hate; it comes from love for these people. And we believe that it's either psychological or hormonal, or and you can." Deal with this difficulty and become what's called a healthy person that builds a life with a wife and children. So those are the three things. God's help, next class, we're gonna jump into zrizut, passion, excitement, movement, and I hope we got something out of it and we should take it to heart. Of course, we just went over it briefly. On each topic, we could have talked many classes. Like I said, my rabbi would teach this in 6-7 classes. So obviously, we're not doing justice to it. But the general idea, I hope you got something out of it, and that you can continue learning it and expanding on it. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.